Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden and those squinty eyes want Russia to know that he's watching them. He's got his eye on them. Probably can't even half see out of those eyes. So, the White House warned of severe consequences if Putin uses nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Well, we shall see. But I'm going to play this video for you from CNBC.
President Biden sending a new warning to Vladimir Putin.
Russia would be making an incredibly serious mistake for to use a tactical nuclear weapon. I'm not guaranteeing you that it's a false flag operation yet. Don't know. But it would be a serious, serious mistake.
That remark from the president in response to Moscow's claims that Ukrainian troops are planning to use radioactive dirty bombs on their own territory. The U.S. and its allies have rejected that accusation as transparently false. But all of this comes as Ukraine now accuses the Russians of preparing a terrorist act at Europe's largest nuclear power plant. Russian forces have occupied the Zaporizhia power plant since early in March. According to Ukraine nuclear energy operator, Russian officers carried out secret work over just the last week at the plant's dry spent fuel storage facility. That holds 174 containers, each with 24 spent nuclear fuel assemblies. Should an explosion destroy those containers, Ukrainian energy officials warn that could trigger a radiation accident and contamination. NBC News has not independently confirmed these claims. And the White House says it does not see any evidence now that Russia is preparing to use a nuke. But there's a lot of talk. Evelyn Farkas is with us now, executive director at the McCain Institute at the Arizona State University. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me, Shep.
Also, former Deputy Secretary of State in the Eurasia. Lots of titles, lots of knowledge. And what I want to know is, do you buy these threats? Is this a setup for a false flag, or is it just a distraction, or what is it?
It makes me nervous because if you remember in the beginning of this latest phase of the war, the Russians were saying that the Ukrainians were going to use chemical weapons.
Yeah.
This is similar, where they're trying it out to see whether the West and the world will believe that the Ukrainians would possibly do this. And so the pushback is really important to signal to the Russians, we're not going to believe you. The world is not going to believe you. We know that all this information is coming from you, not from any intelligence we have about what the Ukrainians are doing.
And that they're in there scratching around the Russians around nuclear waste. I mean, you don't do that for nothing.
Right. So what is scarier about it what's really scary about it is when the Russians say their opponent is going to do X or Y, it usually means they're thinking about doing it themselves. And so that's why we were worried about the chemical weapons. That's why we're worried about the nuclear material. And the Russians are the ones that control that nuclear facility in Zaporizhia. So the Ukrainians wouldn't really have that much say over what's happening there.
You've advocated for a no-fly zone. And
right.
In fact, you did right from the beginning. Do you still think that's necessary, or is Ukraine getting the air defenses now that it needs?
I think a no-fly zone may not be necessary, but I don't think that Ukraine is getting the air defenses that it needs right now. So I think we're doing a better job helping them. If Israel would provide the Iron Dome, there are also other things. We could provide the Patriot system. I know that these things take some time and training, but I think our governments are smart enough to figure it out. The no-fly zone is riskier because then you're actually going in there and you're having to enforce it, which means potentially hitting down Russians.
Yeah, and then we're in the war.
Not necessarily, because the
you
Turks,
shoot down a Russian,
well, the Turks did it in 2015, and the Russians didn't go to war with them. But I agree with you; we don't want to risk that.
Yeah. Hey, one more thing. You saw this letter that the 30 progressive Democrats on the Hill urging President Biden to negotiate with Russia. They pulled it back, and they got a lot of blowback from their own party.
Yeah.
But are peace talks, is that not even in the question? That's out of the question, peace talks?
Right now it is, Shep, because the Russians are losing, but Vladimir Putin doesn't think he's losing. He always wants to fight for another day. If he can hang in there, he will. And the Ukrainians, of course, are winning. So they're not going to be interested in any kind of compromise.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. We know that's not true. First of all, Russia just annexed all of this land from Ukraine. That don't sound like no winner when stuff like that happens. And number 2, they said that amount of land that Russia obtained is the size of Hungary. So, they just know this is Western propaganda. You know, we have seen so many stories that debunk all of this Ukraine is winning, and I've done several videos on it. So they are pushing a propaganda, and I think it's in part of, a lot of money that have been sent over there now forever. And how are they going to come back to the people now and say, we've poured billions and billions and given military aid to a country that's losing the war? They're not gonna do that. They're gonna continue on this propaganda path of telling you of all these victories, and in the meantime, we still see these people sitting and begging, sitting and begging. Y'all tell me in any instance where you have seen a winner sitting around begging in anything. Winners don't beg. That's one thing I do know. And that's all we see out of Ukraine is a boatload of begging. So I'm just going to leave it right there. I just wanted y'all to see that Biden is again issuing a threat. And, it's been a lot of talk in the recent days about a dirty bomb being used and everything. And I think this is also part of their big propaganda. You know, if you thought this was so real, wouldn't you go in there prior to a disaster happening? These folks aren't budging. You know why they're not budging, y'all? They don't want to face Russia. They can talk all that crap they want. At the end of the day, they they don't want to face Russia in any type of combat. And that's the truth. But y'all, please tell me what you think about this latest news and all this yammering about a dirty bomb being used over there in Ukraine. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.